Action game fans, we are so back. The year of the ninja is complete, and the true game of the year has arrived, at least if you put emphasis on the gameplay. I don't think there's any denying that when it comes to raw, unadulterated action, Ninja Gaiden 4 is the one for 2025. And if it wasn't already the fourth game in the legendary series that's done so much to push the genre to the limit, this would be one for the ages. But it is worth noting that as it is the fourth game in such an esteemed franchise known for breaking the average gamer in two, what it has to offer, although spectacular, isn't entirely unseen before. Still, the collaboration between Team Ninja and Platinum Games, at least on a mechanical level, is a match made in gaming heaven. Specifically, the melding of Ninja Gaiden's brutality paired with the graceful fluidity of Bayonetta's weaving motions is a wet dream for action fans. Whatever skepticism existed for this partnership has been largely rendered moot, considering how well the classic Ninja Gaiden formula centered on the stick-and-move approach to defense and the methodical attack inputs marries harmoniously with the weightless and fashionable combos and the parry-heavy focus made popular through the games like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising respectively. Here the two styles clash together yet coalesce ideologically into a near-perfect balance of offensive and defensive counterplay, tempo at the player's own rhythm rather than a forced game of memorization and waiting. Action game fans don't have the patience for 15 consecutive attacks to whiff before landing a riposte. We want non-stop killing at the speed of light. The system complements those good at simply sidestepping attacks and those that prefer to use the enemy's own aggression against them, with varying effects depending on the situation. And not only that, the combo-based player will feel right at home here too, thanks to Platinum's greatest innovation, the dodge offset, making an appearance baked into the essential dodge system. Factoring in Bayonetta-esque dodge offsets into the Ninja Gaiden combo strings for greater continuity in between the evasive maneuvers allows for some of the highest potential that I've seen in this genre. Simultaneously built for efficiency and class, it's the speed and flexibility that Platinum Games does best, combined with the emphasis on precision and the exaggerated absurdity of Team Ninja's novel design philosophy that forges a hybrid, putting to shame most other melee games from third-party developers. The full scope of the combat even gives some of the partnership's collective catalog a run for its money, although in other individual components, the original Ninja Gaiden games and Bayonetta are still much ahead. But it's a much better pairing for Platinum Games' talents to be matched with the grit and dedication to pure action gameplay that Team Ninja instills in its workforce than for the wasted efforts in assisting Square Enix for Nier Automata and Replicant. The true potential is the true ninja and the true kunoichi. Here we have undeniable proof that pure action games are the purest form of enjoyment in the medium. The cutscenes are kept to a minimum, with just enough spectacle to keep the blood pumping before and after the next onslaught. The walking sections and hidden loading screens, when absolutely necessary, are converted into time-sensitive, reflex-based parkour that at least feels organic and appropriate, given the over-the-top spectacle of it all. The combat arenas and their enemy encounters housed within aren't built upon some kind of window dressing for atmosphere, but for practicality and interactivity. Guillotine throw enemies into orbit to see them smash into each other and crumble. Fling them into walls to see their limbs burst apart on impact, setting up a strategic obliteration opening, or just toss them off the ledges for a quick insta-kill, removing a very lethal variable with ease. All of this creates an advantage by giving the player more spacing while keeping the combat dynamic and unpredictable. The grappling hook a la DMC4 paired with wall running enhances the ranged and aerial combat, transitioning from fixed points on the battle stage into the freestyle air raids. The way you engage with each kill determines to a large extent the charge of your abilities and your combos to follow. The obliteration techniques charge the berserk meter faster as opposed to normal methods of execution, which fill it gradually but much lower. The Bloodbind and Jitsu insta-kills can be used strategically and with greater efficiency to the popular ultimate technique spam used in claustrophobic encounters. And the essence has been simplified here, no longer distinguishing between different color orbs for Nenpo, money, and health. The balance here is that essence can be used strictly to charge ultimate techniques on landing or absorbed for small health restoration. The choice is up to you depending on what you need in battle at the time. The currency for upgrades, however, is instead acquired by just completing the challenges and killing stuff, and can be shared across multiple characters, playthroughs, and game modes. There's less thinking and planning in Ninja Gaiden 4 and just more reactivity. The fact that almost every clip that I saved was favorited speaks to the quality of every moment of combat, making you feel like you're an artist in motion. The in-the-moment tension when you reach a flow state is what pure action is all about. If the old Ninja Gaiden games were set apart from Devil May Cry's expressionism by the emphasis on mastering one weapon for a particular combat situation at a time, Ninja Gaiden 4 has weapon switching in real time, as well as phase transitions between weapons, kind of like the phase shifts in Neo or the trick weapons in Bloodborne. It will take time to fully realize the potential here of the complete moves list and the ability to swap weapons quickly on the fly, but keeping the full arsenal seamless integrated is a nice touch for the series. Among Yakumo's weapon wheel is his standard version of the Dragon Sword, and a hybrid version of the Lunar Staff, which turns into a hammer. And you get a cool lance that morphs into some kind of a crazy power drill. And maybe the most unique weapon of the game is the Swiss Army knife contraption that fires homing projectiles downrange. Overall, Yakumo's selection has complexity but feels a little underwhelming compared to reused toolkits from the old games where every single weapon felt tailored to a different strategic approach. I feel the same way about the enemy and boss designs here as well. A number of familiar foes return, like the purple fiends and the annoying dragons, which are iconic to the series. And some of the new robot dudes are fun to figure out, but challenging. I can't help thinking, though, that outside of that final boss gauntlet at the end that goes hard, that most of the new enemies and bosses feel kind of the same. There's a heavy emphasis on parrying, the telegraphed glowing attacks for each boss fight, and spamming heavy moves to guard break to the point that there's hardly any variety to the way these fights play out, other than just how you stay alive. Compare this to the huge variety of fights and enemy types in the old Ninja Gaiden games, and it feels like the developers might have left a lot of creativity on the table, and hopefully not just for the paid DLC scheduled in the future. The combat encounters are often short-lived, yet brisk in their intensity, broken up by brief checkpoints and fluid traversal sections in between. In both a positive and negative manner, much of the level design is streamlined and the bulk of fights are optional for the purpose of speedrunning through chapter select. It takes some of the replayability out of the equation for me personally by removing the necessity of some encounters that, given their positioning along the main story path, would seem to be fights you would want the player to always finish in order to advance. It's not to say the gatekeeping sections don't pose a threat, but some of the levels feel a tad bit empty and exploration gets a bit tedious, with some of the side content feeling repetitive. The true side content is often well hidden and worthwhile to finish, if only for the collectibles, which all aid the player in combat in one form or another, be it health upgrades, ability perks, or currency. Everything is replayable and selectable from the main menu once you've found it in a mission. With a dedicated New Game Plus mode, you can make Master Ninja as easy or as hard as you want it to be. NG4 is by no means the hardest game in the series, nor the hardest game for a trophy hunter. Not by a long shot. But it has a fair range of challenge for just the basic completion to getting Master Ninja ranks. Luckily, they aren't needed for the platinum, or else it would take a lot longer to master the game. In its current state, it's possible to die as much as you please because of the game's generous checkpoint system and infinite item allocation. It gives a sigh of relief, but at the same time, it makes me want to return to the game less. given that some of that unrelenting pressure is lifted from my experience. Master Ninja ranks, though optional, seem to be a real test for those that want to scale the leaderboards to impress. The requirements are essentially just don't die and beat the mission in a certain amount of time, killing a good portion of the enemies, which sounds straightforward, but definitely takes skill to pull off. Interestingly, the item use is penalized here the same way it is in Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, but items are also much easier to come by given the infinite money loop shared from all activities. There are overall quality of life improvements here that serve the game and the series well, such as most of the controls and inputs that return from the older game as feeling a bit more responsive to me, with the only noticeable hiccup for me being the lock on to enemies when I try to ninja flip in the opposite direction and get pulled back towards them. But then again, when has the lock on ever been perfect in these games? At the same time, there's a lot of classic arcade design that feels lost here. The item and resource management doesn't feel as necessary as it was going through, let's say, Master Ninja from scratch in Sigma 1. The checkpoints are often given, not earned, as they were in older titles, again, particularly Ninja Gaiden 1. But there's also no denying that at its core, Ninja Gaiden 4 is vastly closer to the pure design than all of the knockoffs and imitators from lesser developers. For most Ninja Gaiden fans, NG4 is a blessing, and I think a lot of the uninitiated will find it to be a great playground to experiment in as well. Innovation is the greatest challenge to overcome in modern game design. So many games made today all look and feel the same. So perhaps this cynicism of modern gaming is making us more skeptical of old design returning to us. But we should be thankful for the fundamentals. I think that Itagaki himself would be happy with this game, or maybe he would have made it harder on purpose just to push us further. Regardless, Ninja Gaiden 4 is a wonderful reminder of the potential of both Team Ninja and Platinum Games when they go full throttle and full action.